Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. Now find yourself a seat at their table.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. I'm PJ.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're talking about my favorite things again, comic books.
Oh, yeah.
And, I love a good comic book episode. And today we're talking about 3 comic books. Not 1, not 2, but 3 comic books today. So this is my favorite episode ever. We're going to be talking about Spider-Man 94, which is a follow-up comic book to the 1990 cartoon that aired on Fox. At least it aired on Fox in New York and America. Yep. I don't know if it was anywhere else, but then we're going to talk about the new Batman #1 that just dropped last week.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are going to spend some time talking about what is maybe a hot button topic, maybe a controversial topic, which is Red Hood #1, which came out last week and has been canceled after issue #1 due to some controversy surrounding the whole Charlie Kirk of it all. And we'll get into that later as to how that political situation has impacted the comic book world. Those are the 3 things we're going to talk about, but I think we're going to jump right into Spider-Man 94 #1.
Yep. So, folks, I love Spider-Man. Batman and Spider-Man are my #1s. They're my favorites. And as a kid, I loved, PJ, this television series. I loved this cartoon.
I know you did.
And
I think we all did.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe this is a hot take. I actually think this is a better series than the X-Men of the 90s.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, I could see that. I think I slightly preferred the X-Men series, but I could see why people would like Spider-Man 94 better. It had a lot more storytelling that felt more cohesive.
Yeah, and something for some reason if I try to watch the X-Men, something about it now, I'm like, I don't know, it's just like, I'm not even talking about the animation. That's another top. That's one thing, whatever. But something about it felt very slow, where I felt like Spider-Man, just the pacing was just like every episode, they're both half hour episodes, but man, they were just really tight, those Spider-Man episodes.
I felt like the Spider-Man ones also had more episodes where by the end of the episode, the story was over.
Yes.
You got like a full thing. And I felt with X-Men, it was always like part 1 of a million.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's what it was.
Because everything was like that long-form storytelling. Whereas Spider-Man, like, here's the bad guy, he punches the bad guy, we got a resolution.
Yeah.
We swing away, we're on to the next episode. Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point too. Like, everything felt like, for sure. And I know Spider-Man also had like an overarching storyline throughout certain things, but each episode felt like very contained. Yeah. I just want to let people at home, it was my birthday recently, and PJ, as a birthday gift, he got me Spider-Man for the first issue I'm holding up on camera. I just want to say, for on the record, that PJ is one of the most, since I was a kid, the most generous and thoughtful people ever when it comes to gifts or just anything. I thank PJ again for getting me this. I loved it.
Well, I know you were looking forward to it, so
yes.
I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, I did, and I feel like for a lot of folks at home, when this show ended in 98, I remember watching the last episode going, what? Because I don't remember how old I was at the time, 13, somewhere around there. All I remember was like, I think it was maybe it was an hour long, maybe, or a half hour.
It might have been like a 2-parter or something like that.
Yeah. But all I remember was like, looking at like Cablevision clock or a cable box, and I was like, there's 5 to 10 minutes left. How are they going to wrap? I just knew. I'm like, it wasn't going to my end. Yeah, I knew like
this doesn't end.
And then talk about a heartbreak. I was so upset. I was really crushed. So, folks, getting this issue was like, when PJ told me, yo, bro, they're bringing it back. I was actually kind of disappointed they didn't do like an X-Men 97 thing. Maybe this will jumpstart it. Who knows?
If it's popular enough, it could.
Yeah, but so when I say, folks, I was thrilled that it was coming back. And it's only a 4-part series, only 4 issues, and they kind of wrap that whole series up. So,
do you think they planned on having one more season on the TV show and it just didn't happen, and that's why it ended on a cliffhanger? That's got to be what it was, right?
Yeah. I think that's a lot. I think that's actually true.
They didn't plan to end this on a cliffhanger.
No.
Okay. And you know what the most frustrating thing about that, before we even get into this comic book, the most frustrating thing was maybe a year, not even later, they started a new Spider-Man cartoon on Fox. They did the Spider-Man. What was it?
Yes.
It wasn't Spider-Man 2099. I forget.
Was it like Unlimited? Yeah.
But it was essentially Spider-Man 2099 is kind of what the vibe they were going for. And it was just like, Well, then why wouldn't you finish this? You were still gonna make a Spider-Man cartoon with very similar animation. It's not like it was that much different.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
wouldn't you finish this story? Why would you let people wait? Thankfully, 100 years later, I think it's 30 years later, they're
Yep.
giving us a conclusion. And well, I guess we'll talk about whether or not you thought it was satisfying.
Yeah.
Well, let's just do a quick recap of the story.
Yes.
It starts off with, and I'm looking through the book as I do it. It starts off with Kane being introduced, and I don't remember Kane being in the comic in the cartoon.
Maybe because I know just another recap of the
Yeah.
television series. Towards the end of it, and PJ, I think I'm correct
Yeah.
on this, is I think this TV show actually introduced the idea of a Spider-Verse, a multiverse.
Yeah,
which
I mean, it probably did. Yeah,
So I think I didn't rewatch any episodes,
yeah, me either. I
but
just
from when going back, going by memory, I know that towards the last few episodes they did like the multiverse. There was a
yeah,
Spider-Man that was like friends with like Stan Lee. There was a
Yeah.
Scarlet Spider. So I think Kane could have possibly be in it.
He may have been in there.
I can't
Because I
fully
mean,
remember.
in the regular Marvel universe of comic books, I mean, Kane's a spider clone. It's a whole
Yes.
thing. But
Yep.
I thought that was interesting that they would start off with the person we really had no introduction to in the cartoon. But then we see Spider-Man reunited with Mary Jane.
Yes,
And
right
they
off the
don't tell-
bat.
right off the bat, and they
Right
don't
off the
tell
bat.
us at all how
Yes.
that happened. They do give us a little note that they're going to explain
Yes.
somewhere within this series
Yes.
how she's back. But we do start off jumping right into Mary Jane being
Mhm.
back.
Yeah.
We get a little.
Wait,
we
hold
get a-
on. Hold
yeah.
on, PJ. With that, just to like folks,
Yeah.
like second page in, it's Peter Parker is back with MJ, and it's like, oh, we're so happy to be reunited. And the editor of this is a Danny Kesem. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name
Yeah.
right. There actually is a little bubble on the page, and it says, "A tale will tell eventually." Signed, Danny. So they're gonna eventually tell us how Peter was able to get
Yes.
Mary Jane back, but they kind of just jump you like, hey, they're back together.
Jump right into it. And keeping that
So-
cliffhanger alive just a little bit.
Yeah, because I was like, when I read
Yeah.
that, I was like, you're not going to tell us how. And of course, the next page,
Yeah.
I was like, I sense of
I thought
relief.
the
I'm like,
same thing,
okay.
though. I'm like, are we really going to just skip that? The one thing everybody wants to know, we're just going to skip it.
Exactly.
I thought
Mhm.
that was, but then I saw the blurb and I was like, all right.
All right.
They're doing it because they want you to buy issue 2. We
Yes.
know it. We know it.
Yeah.
So then we
Mhm.
get this little page kind of showing us like a recap of what happened. He was fighting Green Goblin, Mary Jane, the
Yep.
whole story from the cartoon. And then we get an interesting thing where Mary Jane proposes to Peter Parker, and he kind of doesn't say yes at that point, and everyone's kind of left to wonder why. But then there's this whole thing, and it's been so long since I've watched the cartoon. Was there a clone Mary Jane in the cartoon?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
because
eventually
she
yeah.
like I said, looking at, they do like a little recap on it, and
Yeah.
like she like melts. Well, she's like part like Hydro Man kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where she like turns into water and she evaporates kind of thing.
And I guess he had married that Mary Jane, so now
Yep.
he's kind of like, am I going to marry Mary Jane again? And he's just worried that what if she dies again? He can't go through it twice.
Exactly, a lot of trauma
And-
there.
Right, a little bit of trauma, and which makes sense. Spider-Man and Peter Parker has always been about a little bit of personal trauma and bad luck and coping.
Yeah.
Then we meet the villain, and it looks like the villain is a decrepit old guy, Moreland, who needs to feed off of other living things to gain his youth and stay alive. And
How do you put it? Merlone? Wait, Merlon?
yeah,
Merlon. He kind of,
Merlon.
just to kind of describe what he looks
Yeah.
like, he almost looks like basically like a vampire.
Like a
kinda
vampire,
look.
like a
Yeah,
Dracula,
you're
kinda
kind of
like a
old
Nosferatu
school,
kind of thing.
Bela Lugosi kind of type
Yeah.
style,
Yes, like an old school looking vampire. Mary Jane shows back up at Aunt May's house, confronts Peter. He explains why he's afraid. They decide they're going to get married, which is confusing to everyone else because everyone thinks they're already married. So that's so Aunt May's like, "What? Huh? What do you mean you are?" And then they kind of play it off. They have a dinner with, I forget the aunt's name, but
Yeah,
Mary
Aunt-
Jane's aunt.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
What the hell is her name? I'm gonna look it up. I have the book right in front of me.
Yeah. So they're
Let's
basically
see.
having dinner with Aunt May
Yeah.
and then Mary Jane's aunt.
Aunt Anna.
Oh, there we
Wow.
go. Mhm.
Yeah, Aunt Anna. So, and Aunt Anna doesn't really like Peter, thinks he's doesn't try hard enough, can't support her niece, blah, blah, blah. Kane breaks through the window because he needs to get Spider-Man back to Moreland, whatever you want to, however you want to
Right.
pronounce it, because he's a totem, he's powerful, he'll be able to feed the master. They fight, and somehow Peter's feelings and memories weaken Kane, and he flees the scene. And pretty much that's the recap of the episode or the issue. And I believe we're going to find out that the reason Peter's deep feelings impact Kane is because they're connected through some sort of
Telepathically.
telepathic clone stuff.
Yep.
But that's a quick recap. So let me ask you this. I think if you want a real detail, the comic book is worth reading, in my opinion.
Yep,
So if you really want to get
absolutely.
deep into the plot, pick up the issue. But did you feel like jumping back into the Spider-Man animated universe here of this cartoon, this was a good start to that follow-up? Or did you feel like it left you a little?
I think overall I enjoyed it. I mean, it's actually not the original writers who did the TV show did not do this. I don't think they were
No, this
involved.
is a writer, J.M. DeMatteis, who he's not one of the original writers. He may have written on the cartoon. I'm not sure if he did any episodes at all, but he has written for cartoons and TV and stuff like that. But I don't know how involved he was in Spider-Man 94.
Right. But no, I enjoyed it. I really gotta say,
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. Like I said in the beginning, when I first read, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa! You guys aren't gonna tell us how we got
Yeah.
Mary Jane back.
I
So
felt
I
the
was
same
like,
exact
I
way.
was like pissed. I'm like, you better. And then sure enough, when I saw that
Yeah.
little blurb on the bottom, I was relieved. I mean, it's a lot of setup. You know, do I love the character of Merlon? You know, I don't know, but I mean, it just started, so I can't really
Right.
to hate on it. I feel like it'd be kind of because it is. I did enjoy reading it. I read it a couple of times already.
Because the reason
I
I
enjoyed
asked
it.
that question, I asked it for a specific reason is not that you don't read comic books, but you don't read them regularly. You're not like I am,
Right.
where I'm in it every
Yeah, yeah,
single
yeah.
day. And this is paced very much like a comic book would be paced. And I was curious as to how that would impact someone who's maybe only reading this book because they like the show and isn't so deep into comic books. Did
Mhm.
that pacing feel jarring compared to the TV show? Because I will say it didn't. This particular book, did not sell as well as I thought it
Really?
would. Yeah, and that because I ordered a ton of these thinking everyone's gonna wanna catch up with this character because we all love the cartoon, and it didn't really translate to as higher sales as the next book we're gonna talk about, Batman #1. They came out the same day.
Hmm.
So I was curious
Okay.
as to if if you felt like maybe it doesn't translate screen to page that well, and do you think that might have impacted, how people felt about it?
Well, just going back, I think this is definitely. It feels like it would be from the TV show. The pacing,
Okay.
even like the kind of the voiceover in the comic
Right.
book, it feels very
Yep.
like that. To your other question, I think. Well, number one, it's kind of like when bands do. Like they say, like the Stones contacted the
Mhm.
Beatles about, yo, when you're releasing your album. I know Taylor Swift did the same thing with Paul McCartney. You
Right.
don't want to compete with sales. So obviously,
Right.
DC and Spider Man. I mean, they're not going to be like, hey, when you're releasing your book, kind of thing.
Right.
Then maybe who knows. I'm not sure what the relationship is in that department is. They want to kind of help each other in terms of sales. I think, look, keeping it real, people want to probably read more Batman than Spider-Man, even though
Right.
Spider-Man is huge. I think Batman probably has a little bit of the oomph over him,
Mhm.
just in general,
I
in
agree
terms
with
of
that for sure,
in
yeah.
terms of popularity.
Absolutely,
And
I
you
agree
gotta
with that.
go,
Yeah.
yeah. So, if you're gonna do Batman #1 or just a continuation of a cartoon, you're probably gonna go with Batman. And look, people have money they want to spend. If you're gonna spend your money, they might be, hey, I might pick that issue next month,
Right.
with my
Yep.
lunch money.
I saw an uptick in sales for Spider-Man 94 the second week, so it
Mhm.
might have just been
Yeah,
a weird sorta I could only pick one today, and I'm picking the Batman, but I just didn't know if maybe because I know how much you love the cartoon,
yeah.
if you thought maybe if someone read a couple of preview pages for this online, would they have said, "Ah, it's not for me, it's not enough like the cartoon."
The only thing I'll say that was a negative for me about this book is that has nothing to do with the storyline. It's actually the artwork.
Doesn't look like the cartoon, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. That the problem is, it's beautifully drawn. That's not the issue. In terms of the artwork,
The
it's
artist looks like a gentleman named Jim Toe. Let's give him his credit. He
mhm.
does draw a great looking Spider-Man,
Yeah,
but
this
doesn't draw an animated series Spider-Man.
you're right. Like I like how the the background, the buildings, all that
Right.
stuff. I just don't like actually how Peter Parker looks,
Yeah.
Mary Jane. They don't look
Mhm.
like their cartoon counterpart. In fact, I think he looks much younger
Yeah,
than he
I
did in the
agree.
TV. The TV show, that Peter Parker was a little bit more mature. I think he was like in his mid
In
twenties
his
or late
20s. Yeah, he was
20s.
a
Yeah,
college student. Yeah.
yeah. So in
And by the
this one,
time
he
this
almost
comes out, he would probably be past college because they even
yeah,
say in the book he's looking for work as a teacher. So he'd be out of college. He
yeah, and he
could be
just
someone
looks
in his mid to late 20s by the
yeah,
time you're reading this book.
he
And he
kind of
does
looks
look very much like a teenager.
yeah, he looks almost like a Tom Holland, I guess, the kind of vibe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the only thing I was kind of disappointed because everything else is like I'm looking at it right now. There's like I'll say some flashbacks of like
Yeah.
Madam Web that looks like the cartoon, and when she's evaporating on the floor, it seems when they were in I'll say human mode. When he's Peter
Yeah.
Parker, those when he's Spider-Man, all those look cool. That I
It's
don't have a
fine.
problem.
Yeah.
Or the
'Cause he's just
villains,
Spider-Man.
or
Yeah.
that looks like accurate. That's fine. I don't care
Right.
about that, but It's really when they're, when he's in human mode, where I'm like, it doesn't look like the
Yeah, and
counterpart.
it's funny because they gave him that same stupid polo from the cartoon when he's Peter Parker, because he
Yeah.
wore the same thing in every episode.
Yeah.
And they gave her the same yellow sweater, purple
Yes.
pants look. Like the design of that part made sense, but I agree, it doesn't look at all like with the cartoon versions of these characters look like. But when you look at the front cover, and I'll hold it up
Yeah.
again so people
Yeah.
can see, those designs are
Look-
pretty much
Yeah.
right. So when you
Yeah.
even Mary Jane on the cover, I felt looked a little better than Mary Jane on the inside
Yeah, I
in terms
agree.
of accuracy to the show.
Yeah. So that's my only kind of negative.
All right.
I can really honestly say. It's funny because, like, I would recommend people also checking out our X-Men 97 review too. I like the animation in X-Men 97, where they still kind of had the 90s vibe.
Right.
But
But
it
it was
was
a little
like-
updated.
Exactly. And I felt like, I thought they were going to do it just from the cover of it. And then when
Yeah.
I saw the inside, like I said, it is beautifully drawn. I'm not saying it's sloppy, nothing like that. It's immaculate. The design-wise, I wish it looked more like the TV. Like I said, all like the villains and all that crap and their costumes look great. It's just when he's Peter Parker, Mary Jane mode, like, it looks like totally different people, and he looks
Yeah,
way
even Aunt
younger.
May, I didn't feel like she looked right. I feel
No.
like Aunt May looks younger in this than she did in
Young
the
May
cartoon
got
also.
May Young. Aunt May got a facelift.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that completely. I really feel like they could have made it look more like the animated series, since it is supposed to be continuing from the. And also, when you look at the cover of this and you see all these different characters, this is a 4-issue series. I don't think all these people will be showing up over the next 4 issues. I can't imagine.
no.
That would be too much. You can't have Venom, Hobgoblin, Doc Ock,
Yeah.
Green Goblin, Kingpin, Craven. There's no way you can fit all these people in four issues. So
Yeah, no
I think
way.
that this cover, I think, is just a little bit of fun for the artist to draw
Yes.
those versions. I
Yeah.
wouldn't expect to see them throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm hoping Merlin will be a good villain. Hoping one of these classic guys come back from a TV show.
Yeah.
Teams up with them. Not like a cameo. Like, I know, like you said, it's only 4 issues, so that's a lot to tackle, and so in a short amount.
And they're not
short space.
oversized issues at all. They're just regular sized issues.
Yep.
They're not double sized where you could fit more content. They're just 22 pages of, a regular single issue of a comic book. So I think a lot of people might see this cover and feel like, oh, I'm going to get to see all these my favorites again. I would be shocked
Yep.
if you did. I think that was just the artist having a little bit of fun.
Yeah, but I would definitely recommend this book.
For sure, I
if
would
you
too.
were, if it's a good read. I'm looking forward to the next 3 issues. I really am. And then I just want to read a little something from the back that maybe some of the folks at home, Danny, the editor of this thing, wrote a welcome back kind of thing. Welcome back, webheads. And he talks about 30 years. But I just want to read this one part. He says, "We're just getting started, though. If you thought you knew Ezekiel Sims, Merlin, and Kane, think again. Just like the original Spider-Man 94, the TV series, you can't always expect where the story's going based on comics. Heck, the Hobgoblin came before Green Goblin on this show. How wild was that?" So, folks, that's what makes this kind of cool, though. I like what I like about the TV show too, because I like that sometimes you take a little bit of liberties. I know sometimes you want things
Keeps you
canon,
guessing.
but it's they do it, and they do it well. I don't mind someone goes rogue; they do their own story if they pull
Right.
it off. So anyway, this is another reason to pick it up, because, like I said, like the guy said, Danny said, this isn't. We have a little bit more liberty, it'll be a little different twist. So anyway, yeah, absolutely. Loved it.
Many people, when they think of Spider-Man, what they think of when they think of origins of these characters, the villains, the heroes, they think of the cartoon.
Yeah,
and
oh
it's
yeah.
That's what their brains go to a lot of the time, and that's really not the accurate. I don't want to say not accurate. It's accurate. It exists in the world. People love it. But like if you only watch the cartoon, then jumped into the comic books, people would be very confused because they don't really line up at all. And I think more people are familiar with the cartoon versions of these characters than the comic book version, at least for a long time. Maybe not as much now because the show has been off for so long.
Yeah.
But early 2000s, 90s, I think more people were way more invested and educated on the spider cartoon characters than the actual comic.
And before we go on to our next comic book, Batman #1, I just want to say a few things. I'm gonna look it up right now, but I always loved the voice actor who did Spider-Man for this show.
Yes.
To me, that's the voice of Spider-Man. I know it was the guy who played in the Brady Bunch, like the newer version, Greg.
Yeah.
I thought he did. I always loved his voice in this thing. He did great. For me, he's like Mark Hamill, Kevin Conroy, Tim Daly. And for me, if I had to, say like the Mount Rushmore of like comic book TV shows, it'd probably be Actually, maybe I'll add a fifth. Maybe we add a fifth guy for the comic book thing. We'll do Batman, obviously the animated series, number one, and then the rest I would put Spider-Man 94, X-Men.
Yeah.
I think a totally underrated series, I think we should do an episode on it, PJ, is actually Superman, the animated series.
I love that show. I agree.
I feel that show does not get enough love, and I'm kind of baffled
everyone always
why.
talks about Batman, but that Superman show is really, really great.
It's fantastic, and it doesn't get enough love. And then lastly, it's probably the weakest out of all these is probably Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. While that was a huge show, it's phenomenal. Watching it now, I don't want to say
it doesn't hold up.
Yes,
well.
Exactly. It's kind of like almost like G.I. Joe, where it's like, I'm not even. I mean, I don't care about the animation stuff. That's
I don't
a part of the time. I don't care about that. Like I said, Batman animated season was exceptional. That was a one of a kind kind of thing, and now it made everything else change. It changed everything.
But I agree though that Ninja. And look, I still love that Ninja.
Oh yeah. I was saying it's not fun or anything, but it's.
I would actually say the I guess it was the early 2000s Ninja Turtles when they brought it back that first time. Might actually hold up better than the original one. I don't know if you've watched that one.
No, I can't even comment to it.
I would say that actually holds up better than the original Ninja Turtle cartoon.
Cool. But
they made it a little darker, a little edgier, but still kept it light because it's the Turtles. They did a really great job with that cartoon.
Okay, cool. But yeah, folks, I really enjoyed Spider-Man 94. I definitely recommend it for people who love the TV show or just comic book lovers. I definitely and it's only 4 issues, so it's going to end and you'll get a satisfying. I'm hoping that I am confident from what that guy wrote, Danny, in it. Like it sounds like he's confident. Like, hey, you're going to like how we ended this. Like they put their best effort in.
I don't think they would have greenlit this if they didn't think it would be at least. Look, there are plenty of comic books that come out, and you're like, why would they ever make this book? I didn't get that feeling from this at all.
No, this one looks there's a lot of care. It looks like they put a lot of they're being very meticulous, especially with the story. With the story, anyway.
Yeah, every week at the shop we do our top 6 favorite books, and I did top 6 because everyone does top 5. So I was like, I'm going to do my top 6 favorite books, and this. I forget where I put it, but it did land for me in the top 6 books of that week. I guess it was 2 weeks ago now, whenever it was, but I liked it quite a bit.
Excellent. So, PJ, I'm really curious now, and folks, now we're moving on to DC's Batman #1. So I guess
Batman #1.
So, PJ, kind of explain to folks, like, I think people go like, wait, #1? What does that mean? Like, is this a new Batman? Is this a new series? Is this canon? How does this work? If you can, just kind of explain the rules.
So it's a sales and marketing technique, right?
Sure. Well, that's #1.
More people are going to buy a #1 than a number 165, right? That's just, sometimes the higher numbers will scare people away from jumping into a story because if you say, oh my God, this is 160 something issues in, am I really going to be able to understand the story?
Right.
And so with issue #1, you eliminate some of those fears. People find it to be a jumping on point, right? So I'll give you a little background that you might find interesting. I don't know if you will. Some of our listeners and viewers might.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
So do you remember, this came out years ago, but I'm sure you're familiar with at least the name of the story, Hush, Batman Hush?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Okay. Yeah.
So that came out, I guess it was early 2000s. We were in high school, I think, when that came out.
Yeah.
I feel like, because I distinctly remember every day, for those of us, we've said it before, we live on Long Island. We're in New York, and our high school that we went to was within walking distance of the comic book store that I used to shop at. It was right down the road. And I very much remember just like running to that comic book store every Wednesday after school. Like when I would walk home, I would make sure I walked home through that parking lot so I could pick up my books for the week. So, I mean, that's how long ago this came out, right? So we're talking, this has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
With that book, it was maybe the most popular Batman story, Batman Hush, in a million years. Let me get you the actual release date for that. I'm just curious because I think it's important.
I just remember like the title of it, word Hush. What a very just interesting word to begin with. When we hear the word Hush,
2002 until 2003, it was Batman 608 to 619, and that was when that came out. Written by Jeff Loeb, penciled by Jim Lee. Okay. So yeah, we were in high school for this book, and I can remember running, like I said, on Wednesdays when I knew that book was going to come out to the comic book shop so that I could read the next story because it was 12 issues long. It featured every single character in Batman, his allies, his villains. It had everyone. It was a mystery. It introduced a new character of Hush, right?
Yep.
So now, this year, a couple months back, they did Hush 2. Same creative team. They came back and they did and this all plays into why we have a new Batman #1. They did a follow-up series to that. The way it was supposed to work was that it would be 6 issues. The first Hush was 12 issues. This would be 6 issues, and it would end that story after the first 6 issues. They would relaunch a Batman #1, and that would go for several issues, and then they would do the second 6 issues of Batman Hush within the new Batman story. Because that first, I guess, 6 issues of Batman was going to leave the story in a place where Batman was in a new place, right? Like a new phase of his crime fighting career, and it would have made sense why there was a Batman #1. That book became so delayed that they still haven't come out with part 5. It was
Wow.
supposed to be out all 6 issues before Batman #1.
Hmm.
But Jim Lee, who is an incredible artist, maybe considered one of the top 5 for sure, top best comic book artists of all time, also runs DC Comics. He's not just an artist anymore. He's a guy in the office who runs the entire company. And the amount of work he was doing led to all these delays. So here's an interesting thing. Batman #1 had to come out when Batman #1 had to come out. So we are going to get this new series of Batman that we're about to review, Batman #1, but you're also going to get Batman 162 and 163 at the same time as Batman 2, 3, 4. They'll be running 2 concurrent titles of Batman with the same exact title at the same time. It's very confusing for a lot of people.
Wow.
It was poor planning by DC's part. People have fallen off that Hush 2 wagon. In the comic book world, we call it Hatoosh because the logo for Hush 2 is H, the letter 2, SH.
Right.
And we call it Hatoosh because there's a 2 in the middle of the word.
Right.
And we all say, but why wouldn't the S just be the 2?
Yeah.
Why is the U the 2? But that's all right. So that's why there's a Batman #1 that the first 6 issues of Hush would have ended that first other Batman series, and it would have relaunched it to #1, and it all would have made sense. But editorial problems
Yeah.
caused this. But that was why there would be a Batman #1. This is actually only the 4th time in the history of DC Comics that there has been a Batman #1. They've only rebooted this book for the original run, right? And then they've only ever rebooted this series like 3 times. This is the 4th time we've had a Batman #1.
Unbelievable. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
'Cause
cool.
you
I love
normally
that history. You explain it really well. Interesting. Mhm.
That's what I do, right? I love comics, so I want people to understand the history of why we have a new #1. So this story takes place. It's not really connected to that other Batman Hush 2 story or anything like that. It was designed always to be a fresh jumping on point. And you have a Jim Gordon who is no longer the commissioner.
Mm.
Jim Gordon is just a beat cop now. The commissioner of Gotham City is Vandal Savage. I'm sure you're familiar if you've watched the Justice League cartoons. You may know who that character is, or if you're a comic guy, you certainly know who he is. He's been the commissioner for a while. Jim Gordon was a private eye detective for a bit. There was a whole story. We won't get into that because we'll be here all day. But now he's officially rejoined the force as a beat cop, which makes me believe at some point he'll earn his commissioner title back. That's probably what'll happen. Um, and you start off with Jim Gordon just in the street with his new partner, and they're just talking, bullshitting on the side of the road, and then all of a sudden you see Killer Croc, and he's a villain, and he just like kind of is on the loose. And then you introduce to Batman in his new costume. They redesigned the costume for the new #1. It looks pretty sick. By the way, this book is written by Matt Fraction, who is one of, I think, the best writers in comic books. I love a lot of his work in Marvel. He's done Hawkeye, he's done Iron Fist, but he's taken a lot of what you might call second tier characters and made just fantastic work out of them. This is his run on Batman, and the art is I don't know if he goes by George or Jorge Jimenez, who is again a fantastic artist. People love his work for a good reason.
Excellent.
So anyway, you meet Killer Croc. You see him flying through. Batman then goes to Arkham, who is trying to rehabilitate Croc, and they basically say something is happening with Killer Croc where he is being rehabilitated, but he's becoming more childlike. So he's not quite as evil, but as he becomes a child and has a child frame of mind with all these being Croc's strength and everything else, it could become dangerous. So what do we have to do? Batman has to find Killer Croc, and that's basically what this book is about. You find Batman fights some other crime along the way as he's looking for Killer Croc. One of the things that keeps happening in this book is you keep seeing Alfred. The first time you see Alfred, he's in the Batmobile, but he's all blue. And for folks who don't know, Alfred was killed off in the comics around 2018. He's been dead for almost, I don't know, 7, 8 years, whatever it is. I don't know.
Did
Yeah,
he die
he's
of
been
old
dead.
age or did he get smoked? Like
He was
someone.
killed by Bane. Bane snapped his neck.
Jeez. Okay.
Bane had take Bane takes over the city of Gotham. He tells Batman, if you or any of your people come into the city, there are going to be repercussions. Robin, Damian Wayne, sneaks into the city to try and save Alfred. Bane finds out and kills Alfred in front of Damian.
Damn.
So he's been dead for a long time. The first time we see Alfred in this book, he's riding next to Batman in the Batmobile, but he has almost like a bluish tint to him. And you kind of think, oh, maybe this is an AI thing that Batman's created.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
That's your first thought. But as you continue to read this book, you see him again outside of the car, and he doesn't have that bluish tint anymore. So it's very possible that Batman is having some sort of breakdown or trauma causing him to either, because he's talking to Alfred.
Right.
So he's
Right.
now talking to someone who's probably not there. He's just in his mind, he might see him. So
Yeah.
it's definitely some like trauma response to Alfred being dead and him having never fully dealt with it. So that I thought was an interesting twist. Eventually he does get to Killer Croc. And at first you think you're going to get the I'm going to fight Killer Croc moment. But then he kind of remembers what that doctor said, that he's becoming more childlike. And instead of fighting him, he talks to him, which I don't know if people love that as much as I did, but I enjoyed the fact that Batman took a step back and said, I don't need to punch this guy in the face to stop him. I need to help him.
Yeah,
Because
I think that's kind of Batman. I think he's done.
I
yeah.
think so too. Some people want to see a Batman fight the bad guy, but
Mhm.
I really enjoyed that take where he sits down with him and he says, I'm just here to help you. And they
Mhm.
have this nice conversation. And Croc, again, very childlike, and he's more Croc now than he is human. So he doesn't say a lot of words. He's like, there's something bad in my head. And Batman is basically saying, we can help you with that. We're going to get you back to your doctor and we're going to help you. And then Croc looks at Batman and says, there's something bad in your head. Who helps your head? And Batman just says, there's nothing wrong with my head. But it's a little tease that might be why we're seeing him talk to Alfred. I thought that was written very well. It was a very
clever.
nice character moment, clever writing. I thought that was very good. Eventually, Croc gets back in the custody of the Arkham doctor. And it's not the evil Arkham that you're used to seeing, at least not yet. This is a more, almost a rehabilitated Arkham, if you want to say that. Where it's actually a doctor trying to help,
Yeah.
not just a prison for the criminally
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Batman gets back to the Batcave. He's like, taking his gear off or whatever. He gets a call from Robin and he says, hey, do we have any friends left in the police force? And Batman says, why do you ask? And you see a shot of Robin with his arms up in the air with cops behind him as if they're about to maybe arrest
Rest of-
Robin.
Mm.
And that's the recap of the story.
Wow, that was It sounds great job recapping that. No, it sounds awesome. I really like the whole thing with the Alfred kind of twist. It kind of reminds me of Blade Runner 2049, where the girl is like really Ana de Armas's kind of thing. I like it. It sounds cool. I like it.
It was a very good book. We sold. Now, this, like I said, this came out the same day as Spider-Man 94. So to talk about the popularity of Batman, like you said, you think it's more popular than Spider-Man. People might have more of an affinity to that character. Innumerable numbers of books I sold of this. It was, you were in the shop the other day. The only one I had left was that giant 11 by 17 copy of that book. We must have sold, I'm telling you, 60 plus issues, if not more, of Batman #1. It was so popular. I still have people calling and asking for it. Everyone wants to be able to read Batman #1. DC had a huge hit on their hands with this book. The story and art make that book totally worth reading. I think it was my #1 book for that week. It was really, really, really done well. The art was great. Batman's new costume.
I was just about to say, you said it looks awesome.
It looks cool. Yeah,
what are the colors? I can't. Oh, so it's blue. Okay,
it's blue. Back to the blue. Yeah,
I always like that. I always like that color scheme. Like
I do too. I like
the Super Friends cartoon kind of look.
Yeah,
I always like that.
I always kind of liked it.
Yeah,
I liked it in the cartoon also when he wore the blue.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we get to the next live action James Gunn versus Batman, I think he's going to wear the blue.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I think we are getting to a place where the super, super dark and super, super brooding version of Batman is getting played out. I think people are starting to catch on to that. I think the climate of the world at this point I think they need less punching and more talking, right? I think that's something you hear a lot in the news, you see a lot. And I think that's what they're trying to do in this book. Show him fight. He does fight bad guys in this. He punches a couple of villains, right?
Yeah.
It's not that he doesn't, but then at the end of the day, it wasn't Batman just destroying Croc. It was him helping Croc. And I think I think it was nice to see that it's more than just a beat 'em up.
Yeah, and I think it's normal for comic books or movies or anything where it goes one way and the pendulum starts to swing the other way. So that's due to swing the other way now.
Yes. Yep. And I think that's what we're seeing. Totally recommend the book if you could get your hands on it. It's hard to find. Most comic book shops are sold out. There are going to be second printings of it for sure. If you can get your hands on it, you should. It's a very, very, very good traditional Batman book, as opposed to something like an Absolute Batman, which I think we might have spoken about on this show, where it's a brand new take, a new universe, and it's very dark and very different. As a traditional in continuity, regular continuity Batman book, one of the best I've read in a very long time.
So it sounds like you're recommending this book. So
absolutely, I recommend it.
No, I love it.
They also
awesome.
redesigned Robin's costume. This is
Really?
Tim Drake Robin, not Yeah, I'll show you the picture of it. I'll pull it up. This is a Tim Drake Robin. This is not Damian Wayne. It's not Dick Grayson. I don't know if you could see it.
Oh yeah. It's kind of
more red.
It's more. I was gonna say it's more red. Okay.
Yeah. Looks pretty cool. I thought it was a good redesign.
Yeah, I like it.
It still feels like it could be a Robin costume, but it's a little more unique, individual to maybe Tim Drake. I liked it.
Yeah.
I like that we gave Robin a scalloped cape. I know that traditionally he has the yellow cape or the black and yellow cape, but it's just like a flat bottom.
Yep.
They gave Robin the scalloped like Batman cape. I thought it was cool looking.
Good. So cool. So we have two comic books that are on shelves, that are available, and that are accessible.
Yes.
Now, folks, I'm sure a lot of folks came to this episode besides hearing about these two previous comic books is about Red Hood #1.
Yes.
Which has now been, I'll say, canceled, right? Or banned.
Yes, canceled. Yes. We had a listener reach out to us and ask us to maybe talk about this topic a little bit because it is a very interesting and hot button topic. So yes, Red Hood #1 came out this last Wednesday. I forget what the date it was, but it was Wednesday.
It's September 10th, actually.
September 10th. Yeah, September 10th, which is an interesting date because as we know, on September 10th, and we're not a political show. We're here to entertain and we're here to just have a good, but on September 10th, Charlie Kirk was murdered.
Yep.
That's what happened in the world that day. So in addition to it being New Comic Book Day, the biggest story was not Red Hood #1 originally. The biggest story was Charlie.
Right.
And obviously, despite anyone's opinions on if they believe what he says, agree with him or disagree with him, I think murder in general is a very bad thing, and it's not to be celebrated. That's just life, right? You don't celebrate a murder. You don't have to agree with people, but you don't celebrate it if they get gunned down in cold. Right.
Yeah. I also want to just say to that too, and this isn't a political stance or anything like that.
Right.
Bottom line is that was a terrorist act. It's not one side's doing, or to say we're going to retaliate on another side. This person is a terrorist. They are rogue. They are not representing any side or any kind of common mindset.
You're 100%
I think
right.
most Americans are exhausted from this division, and I think we just want peace. We just want to read our comic books in peace.
Exactly. So that brings us to Red Hood #1.
Right.
And
I think this ties into, folks, we're going to say, what does Charlie Kirk and all this have to do with Red Hood #1?
And here's the answer.
Thank you, Pete.
The writer of Red Hood #1 is, I'm going to get her name correct. I don't want to get anyone's name wrong. Gretchen Felker Martin is the writer. Gretchen Felker Martin is a trans woman. That's fine.
Yep.
No commentary on that. That's just who she is.
Yes.
After what happened to Charlie Kirk, the day this comic book hit the shelves, the very same day, she put out a celebratory message on her social media platform. I don't think there's any sense in saying what she said. It doesn't serve any purpose. It was an inappropriate comment celebrating a murder. DC Comics, who is owned by the Warner Brothers Corporation, sees this message that their employee has put out on social media celebrating this. And they said, well, this isn't okay. And they canceled the book. Issue 1 was on shelves already. They sent a message to retailers saying, please pull this book from your shelf. Please do not sell it. We are going to reimburse you for any issues that you've bought. Even if you've already sold them, we're going to give you the money back. Please do not sell this. We do not want any sort of...
Even if you sold it, they're going to reimburse you.
Even if I sold it.
Wow.
So if I had the book on the shelf, and I did sell plenty of copies of this book because Red Hood's a very popular character.
Just real quick, PJ, when you released the book, you released it on Wednesday, correct?
I released it on Wednesday morning.
Okay, so you didn't get it right. So this I guess, notice of pulling them came the following day. right?
Yeah,
On
it came like
September
the
11th.
later Wednesday, following day. Yeah, it
Wow.
was way after it all
That's a quick
happened.
turnaround. Yeah.
It was a very quick turnaround, and they said, we will reimburse you for the copies you haven't sold and the copies that you have sold. Please don't sell this. We don't want to support this sort of rhetoric, this sort
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
so that this book may become worth something in the future. Who knows? But that's not the point. So the book is canceled. The issue 2 and 3 had already been drawn. They will not be coming out. They will not be getting printed or published, and nobody will see the end of what this story was. And this story, if you remember, I was telling you a little bit about Hush 2
Yeah.
when we talked about Batman, was supposed to spin out of Hush 2. In that story, Batman has to make a decision to either save the Joker's life or let the Joker die. He chooses, because he's Batman, as much as he hates the Joker, to not let Joker die. For anyone who doesn't know, Red Hood is Jason Todd, the second Robin, who was murdered by the Joker,
Yep.
and then through comic book bullshit comes back to life. So the fight between Red Hood and Batman becomes, how can you let him survive when he killed me? I'm your son,
Yeah.
and you're going to save his life. How can you value his life? And they get into a fight. Red Hood leaves Gotham and sets up a new base of operations, and I believe it's a fictional town, but it's set in New Orleans. That was the setup for this book, and he was going to now have his own city to protect. And we will never find out the outcome of how this is all going to go down, because they will not publish it. I think it's incredibly unfair. I say unfair.
Yeah.
I mean this very specifically to the artist.
Yeah, I was going to
The
say
artist of this,
just
the
the other
artist of
people who
this
were
book.
involved in this project. Yeah.
It's unfair that they had to suffer for someone else's actions, but the artist for this book did a great job. I'll try and hold up a page just so you can kind of see it. Really good
Yeah.
work. Really, I want to give the artist name a shout out. So let me just find their full name so that I can tell them, say exactly who it is. See if I can find it here. They deserve the shout out, I think. What is this person's name? Jeff Spokes. Jeff Spokes. It looks like is the artist. And it's unfair to that person who did nothing wrong and was putting out great work. And, a Batman title. Red Hood is essentially part of the Batman family. This is,
Oh, yeah.
this is a Batman book, essentially. You know what I mean? Like, it's part of that. It's a top tier book for this person to get to show their art, and it gets taken away from them. And I really hope DC does the right thing and finds more work for them, because it would be the right thing to do for that guy. But that was the controversy. And I thought after that happened that the controversy was over. I thought it was. I thought this person said a thing that they shouldn't have said. They canceled the book and we'd move on. The very next day or 2 days later, the writer of this book doubles down and says it again, something different again. And this time the tweet or whatever social media platform it was on was essentially, I didn't really think it would be such a big deal what I said, and basically didn't say the same thing again. Basically didn't apologize for what they said.
All right.
Just said, I didn't expect such a big outlash for what I said, and this other people are saying it, the whole thing. But basically doesn't apologize and doubles down and says, this is still how I feel, and this is still what I'm going to say, which then led to another email coming out from DC Comics. September 20th, I think, maybe the 20th, next Saturday. So yeah, the 20th is Batman Day, and there are usually some giveaways and stuff like that on Batman Day, and one of them was going to be, one of the items for Batman Day was a Batman sampler, which was going to have a couple of pages from Red Hood #1, Batman #1, I think maybe a couple other books, almost like a coming attraction to get people interested in the Batman books. We have now been asked, do not even give out the Batman sampler because it has pages from the Red Hood book in it. Yeah. So that is the controversy on what happened with and how Charlie Kirk impacted DC Comics last week and going forward. Again, we don't celebrate murders or anything like that, but we it's worth talking about how this situation reverberates into many other areas in the
And like I said, and PJ said, we're not really a political show. I guess I almost have to kind of say this in terms of just like, because other people are like, well, doesn't she have freedom of speech? Yes, and this goes for all people,
everywhere.
Your
freedom of speech isn't freedom of consequence.
Exactly, and like it almost comes down like at our jobs, folks, like. You can't just start, standing on your soapbox and doing your political. You're an employee. You can't do that on the clock.
Right.
And now you could say, well, this person did it on their free time. At the same time, I think about something that Barack Obama said years ago that I think was really important. He goes, getting people canceled, any kind of violence, it's not a solution. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't change anything. It It doesn't change anything at all. If anything, it's making things worse. It's making more division. It's making people
Yep.
more emotionally charged. And clearly, when this, when she texted, she was, I'm not excusing her behavior or anything like that. She said this in an emotional state. I guess I'm giving it, this is a tip, a mental tip for all our listeners. It's called WAIT, which is an acronym. It means, and we can use this for all instances, not for political stuff, anything. It means each letter corresponds to something. So it says, why am I texting? Why am I tweeting? Basically just says, wait, let me just,
Right. Sometimes
like
it's too late.
What I'm trying to say is, folks,
You can't recall the email once somebody read it.
right. And lots of times we're in they call it our emotional mind. We're speaking very emotionally, and we should got to think more wisely. You can still have your feelings, right? But we can exhibit them much differently. So what I'm trying to say is, like PJ says, like, you have freedom of speech. It does not mean freedom of consequences. You're an adult, you have a job, a career. You got to be more judicious of the way you want to, look, long story short, folks, if you want to air your opinion, go to the voting booths and vote. That's the best way. That's my rant. That's it.
Well, yeah.
If you want things to change, hurting others or being mean to others or canceling others, it really doesn't really change anything. It bottom line, you put someone out of work or this thing doesn't get, whatever it is. We always lived in the shame culture, meaning since centuries ago, when someone used to steal something, they would cut their hand off and everyone knew that they stole. Or they would put you in that thing, you put your arms and your head in, everyone walked by you and spit on you. We always lived in a shame culture, and it's to tear or to make people behave in a certain way that we want to do as a society. And I get all that. However, if you want things to change in political realm, then you have to go vote. By being mean to one another, hurting one another, killing people, it just creates more. It doesn't do anything. It's not effective. It's not effective.
So
it's not effective at all.
It's just So I mean, I think one of the things I saw come from this, and I look a lot on social media or comic book stuff because as a comic book retailer, I want to have a pulse on this kind of stuff, right? And a lot of people were saying, well, this is the kind of thing that Jason Todd would have done. Jason Todd is the only Bat Family character that uses guns, and he would have felt the same way. But I would say, first of all, Jason Todd, the character of Red Hood, wouldn't feel or say anything because he's not real.
Right.
He's a fictional character.
Fictional characters.
So you can't put that kind of, you just can't put that on a fictional character and say this character would do that. This character only does what he is written to do because he's not real. He's not even a cartoon character. He's a page.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can't put that on a fictional character. You just can't. This character does what he's written to do, which is fight bad guys and entertain people while he does it. I don't know, to try and rationalize or justify what someone may have said based on, well, the character she's writing would have said or done the same thing. No, he only would have said or done the same thing if someone wrote him to do that. He wouldn't inherently do anything. Right? This isn't even, I mean, I don't even understand how I have to say that out loud, but people really get into this in a way where it's almost unhealthy, where you think, what would this?
It's another form of extremism, man.
It
projection
is,
and everything. So.
Yeah. So I mean, it's crazy, right? But this is what happened in the comic book world, and I think it's, like I said, unfair to that artist who is. There's a whole team of people that put together comic books.
Yeah, just from the printing press.
You have an artist. You have an inker. You have a colorist. You have a letterer. You have an editor. You have a printing press that gets money printing these comic books. You have all of this, and all of these people suffer because of one person's actions. And again, it's not a matter of agreeing or disagreeing with how people feel or the things they've said, but just use your brain, people. Like, come on.
Yep.
Just common
like I said,
sense.
use that skill, guys. Use WAIT. Why am I texting? Why am I talking?
I used to have a manager, a boss, years ago, and she'd always tell me, before I respond to anyone's email, she said she used to have the 24-hour rule. And she called me into her office one day, just our normal, one-on-one conversation. And she was like, for you have to use the 48-hour rule because you get very angry very quickly. And so I don't want you responding to anything right away, just because I don't want you to say something that you'll regret later. And I always took that advice, and I was like, you know what? I'm not. If I got an email where I was like, I knew I was going to be angry, I would just flag it for another day, and I wouldn't respond that day.
Yep.
It's the same thing, 24-hour. But that was comic books. That was comic book talk. Let's end on a slightly more positive note, because that's a sad way to end the podcast.
This was a great episode. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. So let's end on a more positive note, and we'll say one more comic book thing that's coming out that I want to just mention real quick. Is called DCKO, and that is going to be a crossover event. It's its own separate book. where it's basically tournament style, and it's set up very much like a Street Fighter or a Mortal
Oh,
Kombat.
okay.
And I'm workshopping this, but they so far have promised there's going to be a winner, and they're releasing a bracket. I'm thinking I might do a March Madness in the shop.
Oh, okay.
With the bracket, and see if we can get someone who can guess all the winners right. It's a pretty cool story coming out that is supposed to be action packed, a lot of fun. You're gonna see each fight that the characters do in this tournament, and I don't have all the brackets in front of me, so I'm just gonna make one up. Like if it was, say, Superman versus, could be anybody, hero, villain, whoever he fights. But if it was Superman versus Batman, each time the characters lose, they have to respawn as a different version of themselves. So if Superman with his regular version of Superman loses round 1, when he comes back, he might be Superman in the black suit or Superman blue electric.
Yeah, Man of yeah.
Yeah, and then if Batman loses in his regular Batman, then when he comes back, he could be, Batman in a different suit or whatever, right? That he's won over time. And I think that I want to end that on, while this is a dark thing that happened with Red Hood #1, there is still so much positivity and creativity and fun in comic books, and that should be celebrated.
Yeah, and I love that whole idea. That is hilarious. I think that's always that's very comic booky too, like having a Pooh
really
win,
is.
and now you get to kind of see it play out.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool is that? Awesome.
I mean, what else do people talk about in comic book stores? Who would win in a fight? Hulk or Superman? Who would win in a fight?
Yeah.
And now they're kind of giving you the answers to who would win in a fight. I think it's super
and
fun.
then they get to respawn, so you see them battle someone else. I mean, you can have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, it's a really cool concept coming out. Starts in October, so don't let the darkness of one comic book story sour you on the medium, because there's a lot of fun stuff coming out.
Yep, awesome. Well, folks, thanks for listening, and same time, same table.
See you next time.
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. For more information, visit their website at coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com. Follow the boys on all social media platforms. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.